I started entrepreneurship at an older age when I've been working. So not a typical example of entrepreneurs. Not the right time also to make risky decisions. So my very first job, I was a trash collector. I used to drive that truck in the morning. I would go in. You do all this by yourself, by the way. Yeah. At 5:30 in the morning when it's cold winter. Yeah. It's really cold. And they were paying me about...
How did the idea of saying, let me take a stab at entrepreneurship come about?
This one thing that you probably have to accept that at the time it felt good, but it was a stupid decision. At that time, now we are looking at 2015, 2016, I had more than a decade of experience. I was attractive to any employer based on my CV, and I had a very good work ethic. So I could have stayed well employed, earning very good money. But you talk about jobs, you talk about careers, and then talk about legacy. You can have all the degrees you want, you can have all the best jobs you want, but you can't leave it for your children. How do you build a long-lasting legacy? And I've always been curious about things of saying, why
PesaChoice right now? What is the problem that it's trying to solve now with a piece of technology that you've built today?
Yeah. Financial institutions, most of them are just barely scratching the surface. We're looking at the African continent where bank penetration is below 20%. Okay. Now let's break this down. So it means 20% of over a billion people can access bank services. That's about 200 million people. Now, within the 20%, just the minority few can even get proper financial services, go to a bank and get a loan. As soon as you ask for that, they're going to give you a form. Fill a form, 2 weeks later, and they'll be like, good, what properties do you have? Want collateral? You put down your something. But now let's reverse this.
What's your take on bootstrapping?
Bootstrapping is tough for us as Africans. Americans talk about garages. We don't have a garage. When you talk about Steve Jobs' story, the man started in a garage. So yes, these are brilliant entrepreneurs who had a very humble beginning starting from the garage. They had those things to start, but we don't. Again, we are not saying we need the similar opportunities that they do. No, I think that would be very unfair because we are in different worlds. But
do you think entrepreneurship is for everyone?
No. When it comes to entrepreneurship, it's about...
Davis, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. You don't usually do these kind of media appearances. Is there a reason for that?
I don't know. I just like staying home. That's the thing. It's not just media appearances per se. It's more of... I don't have so much time, and the little that I get, I try to spend it with my wife and children. But also, I think I'm not much of an outgoing person. Yeah.
And I can imagine running a tech startup doesn't really help, right?
No, it takes every minute you have, and even some more. Yeah. Even what you don't have, it wants it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We've known each other for a number of years now. Right. I think I was early in my entrepreneurship journey. I think you were doing this, but with a different focus, I would say, right, when we met. Mm-hmm. And, I've always wanted to have a conversation where we can really dive deep into these kind of things. Mm-hmm. So before we get to, where you are today, I want to take a step back and try to understand young Davis, growing up. What are some of the key events that when you look back and you say, maybe these are some of the things that actually shaped me into becoming the person I am today, into the leader I am, into the father that I am, into the husband, and to the entrepreneur I am today. What are some of those memories or events?
So I think that one is a tough one because for me, my childhood, when I look at the events that I've gone through all my life, starting from primary school, it's different. I started entrepreneurship at an older age when I've been working. So not a typical example of entrepreneurs. Not the right time also to make risky decisions. So I think growing up, I never thought about entrepreneurship because where I came from, it wasn't there. Okay, everyone was more of an entrepreneur because there's no real employment. It means that you're a farmer, you've grown on your own crops, you have cows, and that's really what you do. And we had schools, so my parents did the best to make sure that we get in the best school that we had in my village, and we basically go in the best school and try to become better, right? I'm from a large family. I have so many brothers and sisters, and I'm somewhere close to the middle. So the only challenge that I really had was always to be, can I be better than my older brothers? Because somehow in our area, our family, today it's not the same like the old days. Everyone knew who is living. Like, oh, did you know that the neighbor's children are very smart? Yusuf's kids are brilliant. So my family was known to have the smart kids and the athletic ones. And I was in the middle. I didn't have any of those two. I was small. I was not so athletic. I didn't play football well. I played, but not so well at the time. And my brothers were always smart. They were told, oh, they are the best in the district. How do you follow up on that? So it was maybe the only thing I can tell you is the one thing that I know about that I've learned as I've grown up is the hunger. I've always been hungry to be better. That's one thing that I had from a very early age. Because as a middle child, somewhere close to the middle, you always, you could be easily overlooked and you can decide to just blend in. But I always said, I want to be better than my brothers. Yeah. So how can I become better? My older brothers were brilliant. They got into good schools from primary, then the secondary they got into good schools. I followed their suit. And then they didn't get to college. That became a big challenge for my mother, saying, I have very smart kids, but how come they don't? But the challenge, when I think about it again, it's just maybe explaining to you, try to understand how things were done in the early 90s. When you look at the 90s, whether it's Rwanda or Uganda, those are the two countries that I understand very well. Anyone you see over 45 or 50 who went to college know they were brilliant, because there was only one university. You have University of Rwanda. You had Makerere University in Uganda. 50,000 students are going to do an exam. The university can only take like 2,000. So however brilliant you are, you need to be in the top 2,000 to actually make it. Now, my brothers were always probably in the top 10%, but they needed only 2% to make it. And my mom, one time, I think that's the only one I can remember well, when she said, when my brother I follow, he didn't make it, she's like, nah, I don't think any of my children is actually going to go to college. But so that was one thing that I can think back on. But then they all went to good schools still. They didn't get to like the national university, but they were able to go into we had you know how we have like IPRC, which are like vocational schools, and they're doing very well, a majority of them. So growing up, that's what I said. I wanted to be, how do I become better than them? How do I do? You guys are always talking about that Yusuf is number one. I never wanted to make sure that Yusuf fails. Actually, I want to make sure Yusuf does better. But I want to make sure I can do better than Yusuf. That's the thing. So that's the only thing that I can think about. And then, of course, I was lucky that I got a scholarship from the government of Rwanda. That was the government picking the top students. And that was basically one way for me to be out. I called my mom, like, hey, mommy, it's happening. It's happening.
And that's fascinating.
Yeah.
And how did you choose, because I knew you did software engineering. How did you choose software engineering? Because I can imagine right now is when we're hearing about people wanting to do that, because we can see the importance of technology in our day-to-day life. I think back in the days, parents were like, hey, become a doctor. Either if you come from a family of teachers, they want you to become a professor. But why did you choose software development?
Oh, so that's another one. When I did my high school in Uganda, in Kabale, just 2 hours away from here. At the time, the top students in the country, top 10. So I was aiming high. I was not even shooting for top 1. I was just like top 10 would do architecture. So to become an architect, you have to be in the top 10. It's like, this I can do. I was doing mathematics and physics. I was like, I can do this thing, right? Yeah. I really believed in myself that I can do it, and I went for it. But when I got a scholarship here, they told me that I'm going to do computer science. So the government actually decided for us. So they said, based on your grade, this is what you do. You're good with mathematics, you're good in physics, engineering. We need, this is 2000. They're looking for engineers. So engineering is something I fell in accidentally. Even when I got in college, the first thing I did was trying to see what can I do to change it. I still wanted to become an architect. And there was an option to become a structural engineer. But they said, no, your scholarship actually stipulates that you're going to do computer science. So my whole first year, I was trying to do other courses, not for engineering, but courses to help me become either architect, civil engineer. Those are things I was looking, not software engineering. That's how I ended up actually with 2 degrees in computer science and mathematics. Because after my first year, my advisor looked at me and said, you know what? You're doing software engineering, you're doing IT. You have enough credit in mathematics that you should have it as its own degree as well. So I said, I'll just do that. But it's a government, but thinking is, so there's a lot of things that have happened in my life that when you look back, it's always easier connecting dots backwards. You're like, it's the best decision probably ever made for me. Yeah. So this is one of those. So engineering is something the government of Rwanda said, you guys with these grades should take.
We need more of that.
Yeah, we need.
I mean, look at you now. Yeah. Definitely a good decision. So you get a scholarship.
Yeah.
How was that experience for you? Feeling like I'm one of the geniuses in the country. Moment.
This is the interesting one. Now, I think I was talking to the guys we worked with at the office, and I told them something that I learned in my 30s. For the longest time, I never even thought I was smart. I still think I'm all right. I'm all right. I still think I'm all right. But, and this is something that I've seen not just me, Rwandans as a whole. We actually, as Rwandans, particularly young Rwandans, you always think that the guy is smarter than you. And that's something Americans do very, very well. They always think I'm better than everyone else. So I learned this recently when I said, any room that you go to, you actually belong. No one is going to invite you in a room if they don't think you're good enough to fit there, right? So if you're given a scholarship, it's because you actually earned it. Don't go there feeling, yes, it's always good to be grateful and know that, yes, I'm lucky to be here. That is good to be that, to stay calm and humble. But no, even when I got a scholarship, I was happy. I was excited. My mom was happy for me more than anyone else. And my uncle was extremely happy for me as well. His son was who raised me. And they were more happy for me than anyone else. So people around me were happier than me. Because they're like, yeah, you did it. You good, go. And then when I'm saying this, how I recognize that what I said about always knowing that you belong. We were selected in a group, and then I once, this recently 3 years ago, and you got there and you're still intimidated. An American shows up with a better accent, and you think they're smarter than you. Yes, they probably are. But if you're both on the same table and you're invited on the same table, you're probably equally smart. So it felt good knowing that I'm going to study abroad. But even in our initial classes, I never thought that I was better than the other guys. Never. I always thought I can do better. I just wanted to become better, but never thought that I was better, that I was smart or extremely smart, better than the guys sitting next to me. No.
Yeah. And I feel like it kind of keeps you grounded as well, right? Because if you think, this is, I've achieved greatness, then you're not going to put in a lot more effort to become even better. You always have to think that. I think the people who eventually succeed, I think I was reading this somewhere, are the people who are, most of the people who are successful are very self-critical. Mm-hmm. So they're always thinking that, you can do better. Yes. Hey, you can do better. I'm not competing with anybody. I'm competing with myself, right? So I think that's the most important thing. Yeah. So now you're there. So you're studying computer science. How, you're done with college. How did you get into the workforce?
So when I was doing going through college, it was always, again, that's what I told you, I'd never thought about entrepreneurship until much later in my life. Back then was get good grades. So you understood what your targets are. Get good grades, stay out of trouble, graduate, get a job, well-paying. Now that I was doing computer science, I realized, there's Google, you had this Microsoft, there's some companies that you're looking at, Apple. So now I can get a job in one of those big companies. I started my postgraduate. When I started in my first term of postgraduate, a company came to school and said, we are looking for software testers. Like, okay. I wanted money. I wanted money. Like, hey, we'll pay you X amount. I was like, that's really good. So I said, okay, I stopped.
I've never been paid in all this.
Oh, no. I was fair. I was like, hey, I did my mental math, which is something I always do. I said, yeah, I'm going to do it. So I took the job. Then I stopped my classes. My mom was very unhappy with me because she wanted, think in her head, she wanted get as much education as you can get. Get a PhD if you can, get whatever you can, because I'm going to. So I told her, but I promised her I am going to finish my I'll get my master's. I promised her. By the time it made sense, because when I looked at the money, I was like, I can help her. I can do a lot more with this for me and my family. So I got a job as a software tester. I did that for about 6 months, and then started as straight into a developer to writing code. And the company came at the office, hired us, got the job at school. They were hiring from school. They said, hey, we'll also process your paperwork for you. I was like, fantastic. I mean, when I looked at all these things, everything looked good. And I didn't think of, like you did it at a very early age. Me, I wanted to make sure I get a good check. And have good money in the bank. That's about it. Yeah.
And that was your first job?
Yeah, that was my very first job. No, not my first job. Oh, no, my first jobs. I did, in college, I did the weirdest jobs you can think of. My very first job, I was a trash collector. So I had the driver's license, and we lived in an apartment. On campus, we had different blocks where we stayed. And we had an old guy who used to take care of us. He became a good friend. So in the morning, you would in each one of the floors you can throw trash. It goes down in the basement. There's a big trash container. Everything goes there. Then someone has to get those from the basement, put them on the entrance of the complex, so that the trash people can pick it up. So my very first job, I used to drive that truck in the morning. I would go in. You do all this by yourself, by the way. Yeah. At 5:30 in the morning when it's cold winter. Yeah. It's really cold, and they were paying me about $5 an hour, which was good money. Good money. No, not much. So you go out and push the whole trash can. Yeah. You get it out of the building. You go in I sit in the big old Ford truck. It puts the things in, and then you throw it in the back. That's what I did. And then in between, I did so many crazy jobs when I was studying. I would do jobs. Then when exams are about to reach. Our scholarship stipulated that I had to keep at least a B+ grade. Otherwise, you lose your scholarship. So when exams came, sometimes I would just quit. So I did trash collector. I did picking pills in a medicine in Eckerd warehouse. I did cleaning these devices. General Electric, they have electric devices. You'd be cleaning, reservicing them. I also washed dishes in a restaurant. Now, that was a very fascinating one. Did it for a few months. And you go in, you check in like an African kid. You're trying to survive. I had a scholarship. Yeah. My school was all paid. Everything where I was staying, everything was covered. Just to make the extra money. Something I can put on my savings, something I can send to my family. That's really what I wanted to do, is get a little bit of money, keep some for myself, do the rest. So dishwashing, yes, you literally get thousands of plates a day you're washing, because people are coming. The servers pick the food. You have to put them on crates, first dust them up, wash them, then you push them through a dishwasher. By the time you leave, you're smelling like, let's just say that one you don't. So I did that. That was probably one of my challenging jobs. So in the 4 years, I did so many jobs. Then the last one I did, which I enjoyed, was I worked in a nursing home, taking care of old people. The reason I enjoyed that one was, yes, initially, the mindset was always, it's nasty. You're going to clean people's minds who are old people. But the time you work and the time you have to study, it made a lot of sense. Because you would be there for 10 hours. Actually 12 hours from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. You do 3 shifts a week. You get paid a lot more money. And in the 12 hours you're there, you only work like 2 hours. So the rest of the 10 hours you can sleep, you can do your schoolwork. So when I got that job, my girlfriend is an entrepreneur. She's my wife now. She's the one who took me there. She's been my best friend for forever. So she took me there and said, "Hey, I'm gonna give it a try." I looked at the money. I didn't look at the job. But the job in my head, I was like, because these old people, they are incontinent. So they're going to clean and be like, oh, I put on myself. I did. So you have to help. You clean them up, you shower them, then you put them back. But you only work a few hours. Dishwashing, 4 hours that you're there. There's the planes coming. I'm telling you when you leave. So then that was my first professional job, was the engineer and the QA. So my first professional job out of college, it's like, okay, good. Now get into testing.
So were you going? Was she on the same scholarship as well?
Yes, I met her on the same scholarship.
Oh, okay. You won the.
Yeah, she's rolling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. That's good. Cool. So you are now, building up your career as a software developer, tester, software engineer now, and then you do that for a couple of years.
Yes.
Correct. Did you shift any companies, or you stayed in the same company?
No, I switched to 2 other companies throughout my tenure as an employee, as a developer, and but still doing the same thing. I mean, at the end, I was doing I got a job as director of engineering. At that time, I had several years of experience. I had been promoted through various roles. But I did that with Dish Network, SAI Worldwide, and the first company I started with was actually a consulting firm called Accenture Technologies. It was. So those guys they're the ones who would recruit from campus. Then they place you in one of, because for them they do consultation. So they placed me in Dish Network. When their contract with Dish Network ended, I was hired as there and stayed there as an engineer.
So you were now a director.
Yes.
In a tech company, right? You're making a ton of money.
I was well paid at the time.
Assuming you're making a lot of money in this period, how did the idea of saying, "Let me take a stab at entrepreneurship" come about?
So this is this is one of the things that you probably have to accept, that at the time it felt good, but it was a stupid decision. At that time, now we are looking at 2015, 2016, I had more than a decade of experience. I was attractive to any employer based on my CV, and I had a very good work ethic. So I could have stayed well employed, earning very good money, which I was already earning good money at the time, but stayed there. But one of the things that, going back, again, my girlfriend, early enough, when we talk with this conversation you have with friends and people you who inspire you, and they'll say you talk about jobs, you talk about careers, and then talk about legacy. And one of the things that stuck in my head for a long time was, you can have all the degrees you want, you can have all the best jobs you want, but you can't leave it for your children. How do you build a long-lasting legacy? And I've always been curious about things of saying, why doesn't generation translate, like generation wealth? There's people, of course, like the Rockefellers, these are guys who made money 200 years ago, and it still goes on. But how do you actually build, or the Walmart family? How do you build something that it doesn't matter how small it is, that the next generation can come and pick it up and make it better, then make it better? That's so the curiosity, that one. So for me, entrepreneurship became a bit of a curiosity, saying, how do I move from this to that? So Rwanda was there. I talked to 2 friends of mine. Prior to that, I started a small company with my wife, and we're doing calling. When you're in the US talking to people in Africa, you always have to buy a calling card. You scratch, you put a PIN number. How do you digitize that? Just the curiosity. I love tech. I'm always curious. So that one was just a small thing that worked. It was called Chivotel. Got a few hundred people. I think we had reached up to about 15,000 clients. Selling, people registered, so you would get a few hundred people buying cards, $5, $10, $20, and people would ask you some questions, and you always be curious. So when I said, I'm going to go to this entrepreneurship world, I said, okay, I want to try this thing. Not a good decision. I had just had a baby. I had 2 back-to-back babies. We had 2 children, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to give this a try.
But at this point, you're still living in the U.S.
I'm still
doing this key hotel, but stop.
Yeah, but the clients were in the US because I always focus. It's always better to build something you understand.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of people say that Yusuf, give me your idea, I'll do it. By the way, no.
Yeah.
No one will execute idea better than you who came with the idea. No one will. They can try, they can spend millions of dollars on it. Some will even succeed at it. But if something you think about it and say, no, I'm going to give it a try, you understand it. Always try to build something you truly understand. I understand the challenge because for over 13 years, I faced that challenge of calling. How do I make it easier? In our very early years, when we just got there, you would actually go to a pay phone and put in and just call. Yeah. And then you call your mom, you tell her, someone will bring the phone to her. So that was different. So now calling was easier. But how do you bring it to people so they don't have to leave their house?
Yeah.
They still have to go to the nearest gas station and buy that scratch card. So if say, how do I find the people who provide those scratch cards, digitize them, and then you can just do it on your phone. Instead of scratching it, I'm just sending it to you, and then you just call a number. So that's what I said. Then I eventually sold that business. It wasn't a bad business, but it got the juices going. Yeah. I think that's what got.
Who did you sell it to?
There's a company that are doing it big time because this Keku is the one who took the client base. There's a company called Keku in the US, but there's so many other companies that were doing it. Like Boss Calling Card was big, so there were so many companies that were doing it. Because essentially what you would do is you would buy because those companies are buying airtime in Africa.
Yeah,
and then that's how they connect you. So MTN will have to sell you airtime. Even MTN is buying from someone with a satellite. So it's always those pyramids. Where do you come in? And for me, my problem, I understood it was, how do we make calling cheaper? And how do I make it convenient?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to sell it if it was successful in solving the problem?
One, of course, scalability. I knew that it's limited at some point unless I tried to find the first markets I started with was Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya. You'd have to get bigger markets. Rwandans in the US were not many. Ugandans and Kenya are much bigger. Kenya has a much bigger diaspora. But of course, if you want to really do it, you got to pick India, China, but those ones had other big players who are there. And also I was looking at, this is 2015 now, 2016, I was looking at this WhatsApp, there's those social media apps that are coming in. They're going to wipe you because it's going to be free eventually. Because you can truly see the direction where things are going. You're like, I probably need to focus on something else that because it's going to be cheaper and cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at this time, you are doing the key hotel business. You're still
I'm still employed. Yeah, I'm still employed. I'm still working.
My wife is the one running it.
Yeah, she's running it. And we had 2 interns, but she also had her own job, so we would basically both mix and match. Yeah, we would both mix and match. But it was a good thing. It was also one thing that you see to try, because you try and learn.
Yeah.
Because every business, when you go in, it looks good. And you start looking under the carpet, you realize it's harder than you thought.
Yeah, that's true. But still a win. I mean, it's your first company. Yeah. You know, you've already sold it. So you can automatically say that you were exited.
I exited in a very small amount of money. But then that's when I started PesaChoice. Because at the time I saw another challenge, which was, again, based on the clients. You try to pivot and you try to go in the right direction based on the need of the client.
Yeah.
At the time, I realized that the biggest thing we had, one of our challenges was remittances. Sending money to Africa was very, very expensive.
Yeah.
It's now has basically made a lot of difference, but a long time ago, it just cost us more than 15% to just send money.
What was the solution back then?
So our solution was basically, we figured, let's build a cross-border payment platform.
No, I mean, what was the solution to send money to Africa?
The first one we ever used in the early 2000s was always Western Union. Yeah. So you had Western Union and MoneyGram. Those were the two.
Yeah.
Now, those two had big problems. I mean, yes, they solved the problem for everyone. But if you basically broke it down, you found that there was so many challenges. One, my mom lived in the village. If you send it, someone has to go pick it up. Sometimes it's a 20, 30-minute drive or taking a taxi or walking. Because you have to go to me, the sender. I have to go get money from my bank. go to a Western Union location, send the money, put the address of someone receiving. Someone on the receiving end, you will send them a code that they have to take. The Western Union cash out location were typically banks. They have to go drive and find their way to that location. So you can see just the inconvenience already in just the logistics, but there's also the safety thing. Because if you look at Africa as a whole, not just looking at Rwanda, which is a very secure country, if you look at Africa as a whole, how many people are secure sending money? You go picking a bundle, you pick 1 million francs if you're in DRC and you have to go 2 hours with it. I don't think it's safe, Yeah. So so our challenge there, and then at the time what I was looking at was how do we make it easier? There was mobile money. That's what to do. Is you know the problem, you can come up with a solution because your solution is you need to build a product that makes things easier, right?
Yeah.
But in the easy part is I put it in your hands by building a mobile app. I can create my mobile app to your bank account, so I can get my money from you on the mobile app, and then I can deliver it to your loved ones, to the people you're sending it to. And now the next part is what's the easier delivery method?
Yeah.
And that was mobile money. So you realize, hey, people have smartphones or feature phones. There's more mobile money agents than Western Union agents. So it's more convenient. At home, even if someone is there's a guy who can cash out some little money, maybe not a large amount. That's what we built. So we built a solution that can send money from US to Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya, and Zimbabwe. That's what we started with.
Okay.
Yes.
And it was purely mobile.
It was a mobile app. It was purely tech based. You could also do it on the browser, but it was purely tech based. You don't have to leave the comfort of your home to receive the money. You don't have to leave the comfort of your home to send the money. But it had its challenges.
Yeah.
As we were excited building this, we didn't think about the business side of it. I was so consumed with the tech.
Yeah.
And that worked. Yeah. But the business side of it, licensing, operation cost, all these things that have agreements, all those things. So now it's not, quitting was not an option.
Yeah.
Let me figure this out. Licensing. We went and found a company out of Texas that you could lease licenses from. They charge you $15,000. They give you a license across the states, and you can, because in the US it has to be on every state. Then the receiving country license, Rwanda, you have to go to BNR, peer-to-peer transfers. There's a requirements. You go to Kenya. We start looking for the right partnerships. Yeah. That's the best way, because you don't have the money. Is how do I get the right partnership? You don't have the money, you don't have the time. If you had money and time, you would have to go in each one of these countries and apply for licenses, take the time. But we didn't have that luxury. So we built the software, said, okay, let's build the software, let's do the distribution, let's find the right partners. So we did that, and it worked. But then read agreements, all those things, like find the right agreements that you have to sign with all those people. You can't afford a lawyer. You can afford the lawyer if you want, but probably that's a cost you don't want to spend. Right. Finance, you do that. So you do most of those things yourself. Yeah. That's why you have to spend long hours, because you don't understand most of it. You're just learning it. There's a good university called Google. She helps very much.
Now it's ChatGPT.
Yeah, I know. I wish I had ChatGPT. Yeah, ChatGPT can spit out a whole contract for you.
Yeah. Yes. And so you're running this company. You're building all this product that's still based in the US, right? How did you decide that you wanted to come back on the continent now?
Okay, so you're building the solution, but you're building it for Africa. That's the thing that I had to look at, right? One is who we are building it for. And when I was thinking about my entrepreneurship, I didn't think about it in a way that I'm building something for Americans. I love the country. America has given me a lot. I am grateful for it. But I also have, right now, their problems and ours are different. Theirs are luxury problems. Ours are painful problems. They really, some of these are life and death problems. Yeah. So building a tech company in the US, you build a very good social media app. But yes, it's good. It makes people happy. Right? Our challenges are beyond that. School fees. medical bills. Those are biggest problems that we had. So I wanted to say, how do I build this for Africa? So PesaChoice, at the time, we faced some challenges. The first challenge was that the government. So in the US, it's called FinCEN. FinCEN is similar, like the one who give license equivalent, which would say BNR for any financial licenses. They passed a law saying everyone has to own their own license. You can no longer, but they gave us time. By I think it was Feb 2017, everyone has to have their own license. And licenses in the US cost about $1.5 million. We don't have that money. So we had three problems. First, we built a good solution, but the first three problems. First was one, liquidity and licensing. Those were the two problems. Liquidity, licensing. I would say also time zones, but time zones could be fixed by liquidity. And liquidity meant that you needed, as soon as I collected money from Yusuf and I'm sending it to Davis in Rwanda, I would get your money, but I'm getting it in the morning, let's say in the afternoon. It's nighttime for Davis in Rwanda. When he wakes up, he just goes and cashes the money. Now, they're our partners, and everyone makes sure that before you can send the money, you have to have the equal amount in that. So if you're charging 100,000 in the US, you've collected 100,000 from all your clients in the US, you want to distribute 100,000 in Rwanda, you have to have equivalent in Rwanda. So, and the time difference, if you get that money, by the time your bank settles all your payments, it's the next day here. People have already used the money. And then you have to send that money here. So they see those challenges. Yeah. That meant that you need to raise capital to make sure that you have enough money here to cover your enough money in Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya, any country where you're operating. You just have to have enough money there that every transaction is covered by that money, and you can just do a bulk wire transfer like once a week, not depending on what I've collected. So that was the first problem. So customers were sending money, but we were not able to distribute that amount of money. So sometimes you would, as an entrepreneur, you would be creative. You would blame it on technical difficulties. You'd blame it on technical difficulties because you've already sent the wire, but the money is not there. You've run out of your float. Yeah. Because MTN will tell you have to have a float equal to this amount if you want to make sure that you do the transaction. Yeah. So we tried to raise capital and failed miserably. And in the US, no.
To register and try to register.
So there's a couple of things I learned, and again, it's always easier looking backward. I went to so many pitching places and showed demos, showed features and everything, and we're doing good actually. Number-wise, we're not bad at all. Yeah. But when you went to pitch, you would sit and talk, and these investors, they're not interested in Africa. That's the part that I screwed. The first thing I screwed up was not understanding that VCs also have type of tech they're looking for. They have markets that they're interested in, and some of them are interested in fintech, edtech, agri-tech. But me, I was just throwing darts in the dark. Yeah. So I mean, I was an engineer. I didn't come from that is something that I didn't, and there was not enough podcasts for me to be following to understand. So I was trying to figure things out. Yeah. So we tried to raise, we failed because we were looking for the wrong investors. And then I said, okay, good. Now let's try this in Africa. I said, we are doing this for home. Let's make sure that we do it at home. And also, when you start a company, it's easy. You can write code if you can start when you're two people. You're two people who are starting, two founders. One is an engineer, one is a business mind. The business mind goes to look for clients, the engineer writes the code. You start doing that. But then if you're the engineer, if things go very well for you, now you need to duplicate yourselves. It's no longer two. You need someone to support the clients, and you need more people to support the tech and build new tech as you do. So we did, my two co-founders, they're called Odilon and Pacific. We had a conversation and we said, you know what, it's easier to get manpower at home since, again, if you're there as well, you understand what the challenges are. So we tried to say, we couldn't get the licenses. We tried to come here and raise capital from here. We met our very first people called, a company called NIS Capital. I don't know if you know them. They're here. They were here in Kenya. That's why I met Sarah. Sarah, yeah. Yes, we met through that.
Yeah, I think NIS Capital. I think I heard about them.
Yeah, because for them, they're a boutique financial firm, and they will help you raise capital. At the time, they had also just started. They're trying to say, how do we help companies? tech companies raise capital. So they're also solving a problem that we really had.
Yeah.
Helping us. They find the promising companies, they help you raise capital, and they keep a success fee as a company.
How did you know about them when you were still in the US?
No, I had just come here. Patrick introduced them to me. So, yeah, he knew them. So he did the introduction, and then that was...
At this time, you had decided to relocate back because of those challenges?
I had decided that I need to spend more time here.
Okay.
And luckily, I was killing two birds with one stone. My mom was ill at the time, battling cancer. She had been battling it for a few years, and it looks like things were not going well. I just wanted to spend, so it made sense to do work, because even the work, it actually made sense to do it from here. Yeah. So those are the two things that I was looking at. When you look at both, you combine those two, you're like, okay, good. Let me try this. I talked to my co-founders. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go home. This one I'm going to try. And they're like, okay, good. You guys have jobs and we're working, all of us. Let's pitch in. If I'm doing this full time, I'll take the bare minimum to cover my bills. And you guys, you have to. So we self-funded ourselves at the time by saying, you two who have a job, you put aside the X amount that goes to me and the few interns. So we started with engineering interns. Then we can do that. Yeah. So that was tough. The business was good, but it was also a bit early in its time. Yeah, it was a bit early in its time, raising capital for us here, even in Rwanda, and Africa. Even Rwanda today, it's still hard. There were a few companies that were getting money in Kenya, but not so much. Yeah, capital raising, I think, has boomed like in the last 3 years. The last 7 years ago, 6 years ago, not so much.
Yeah. So you meet Sarah. And then, so they're on board, or?
Yeah, they're on board. They help us. They introduce us to some companies, and there's some VCs. Of course, what they do for you is they create the business model for you. They basically helped us create the investor pack. They help you with your data room, like what do you need to put there so you can attract investors, and then they circle that within their network of people that they know. We talked to a few VCs, and it was always a chicken and egg problem. Yeah. You have a solution, yes, we see it. We see the problem, we see where your numbers are getting. But talk to us when the numbers are 10 times bigger than what you have. Because we think you're too early. So that's the thing that we are facing. They did their best, and we tried, and they even invested their own money because they really believed in us. They invested their own money. That's how she became part of the team even later. Because as we pivoted, I stuck with everyone who believed in me and who started with us. Yeah.
And I think this is around the time that we actually met, I think, right? Where you had this remittance platform.
Yeah.
And, but then a pivot happened.
Yeah.
Right?
So
how did that come about?
The first pivot for PesaChoice was we couldn't get the money we needed to run the business properly. Yeah. Because the biggest constraint was, you already know, when investors give you money early, they want to make sure that, again, their money moves you from X to 10X.
Yeah.
But in our case, with the remittances, the money wasn't immediately going to move you right away, because most of it was going to be spent on licensing. And that did not interest them as much.
Yeah.
So that's why. So we said, okay, what we can do is, let's find businesses that are, whether it's banks or financial institutions that are in the space, we sell them our tech. Because we had built a very beautiful piece of technology. Yeah. Now I said, okay, let's become a software company, we just sell the tech. And I went around, tried it in every company and sell. So I said, we can build off a few things, because this is when, again, now everyone can do mobile. From your bank every bank has a mobile app that you can do your self-service, agents bank. So we started adding these features to the platform. So now we came from a remittance company to a platform provider. That's what we pivoted to. Yeah. That didn't go well because, again, you can, every time you look back, it becomes easier to connect, to see where you went wrong, what you could have done. But also, I'm not big on regrets. I personally don't believe in them, because I think if you don't screw it up or do it wrong, you probably won't be where you are. If you had known, then you probably will. Yeah, you'll be able to get it right from the get-go. So we tried those institutions and tried to see how can we give them our solution so that they maximize the customer experience. Those are what we wanted to do. We didn't. Many companies were paying insane amount of money to buy similar solutions out of Europe and US, but not buying it from a local company because I guess they look at you like, nah, you really can't trust you. We can't trust you with our finances. Because also when you look at some of them, again, they will give you their terms of reference when they say, okay, we're going to put out a tender to do this, and most of them are looking. But then they want to find, they say, you have to have done this for 5 years. I've only done it for just a short time. You have to have done this in 10 other companies. I want you to be my first one. Then we can talk about it. Yeah, you'll be my pilot. I promise to be the best person you can do. Yeah,
a very cheap price.
Yeah. So we played around with that. That's when I saw the current problem we are fixing. And then but during that time also, because I love playing with technology and my two co-founders also loved playing with tech, so which made it easier for us. Played around with blockchain technology to understand, because you know it's the future. You can avoid it up to now, but long term, you're not going to be able to avoid it, whether it's on the current spot. And of course, the common misconception is always when people think of blockchain, they think of cryptocurrencies. Yes, cryptocurrency is a good example. It's not the only way to apply it.
Yeah.
It can be applied on real estate. Healthcare would probably be another perfect example. So we played around with blockchain, got in a bit of trouble with that because that's governments don't like that.
Yeah.
They warn you, but luckily we have a very good government that is usually they will talk to you and try to understand what are you really trying to do. Yeah.
Interesting, man. And so PesaChoice right now, right? What is the problem that you realized as you were, trying to sell to all these companies that you're trying to solve now with a piece of technology that you've built today?
Yeah. So when I was selling to the financial institutions, I realized that financial institutions, most of them are just barely scratching the surface. They don't maximize data that they have. They have massive amounts of data. Many of them have now started, I would say probably I've seen a lot of shifts in the last 2 years, but talking about 4 or 5 years ago, many of them are not. And we are looking at, this one I think of it more as a continental issue. We're looking at the African continent where bank penetration is below 20%. Okay. Now let's break this down. So it means 20% of over a billion people can access bank services. That's about 200 million people. Now, within the 20%, just the minority few can even get proper financial services, go to a bank and get a loan. Some have connections, some have so there's a couple of things you're looking at here. There's also some also have properties that they can use. Because you walk into a bank and be like, okay, I want a loan of $1,000. Okay, let's say 1 million. Let's keep it to the random level. You walk into a bank and say, I want $1 million, 1 million francs. As soon as you ask for that, they're going to give you a form. You fill a form, 2 weeks later, and they'll be like, good, what properties do you have? Want collateral? You put down your something. But now let's reverse this. This person, let's assume this person is 50 years old. He's a father of 5. 2 of his kids, he's a farmer or he's done something. 2 of his kids are now doctors. See, you get the point. And then the 2 are going through college. He's actually paying. It means he has some cows. He has some revenues. He has properties as well. He's been banking with you guys for the last 20 years. Technically, you have all his information. You know how many times he has to pay school fees, how much money is. And you're looking at all this information. But somehow, his application process is 2 weeks and some notarized documents, some paperwork. Now, that's one example. Then you look at another example. Someone, Yusuf is, again, has been working for 2 years with Bug Innovation, shows up in a bank and says, I want to get an overdraft, or I want to get a credit card. They're going to tell you again, the list of 10 things. Marriage certificate, if you're not married, you need a certificate, you got to go, celibacy certificate, paycheck, contract with your employer, stamped and signed, think like a salary assignment. So you look at all these things, pay slips, and some of them are ridiculous that they will even tell you, we also want your bank record. I'm like, but I bank with you. They'll print it out and you sign it. So I will not. So some will go as low as that. So when I saw these problems, so now we are saying again, we started with the problem of 1 billion people who actually need access to finance. You're only able to service 20, and a small piece of the 20% is the only one that can actually get proper service. And even then, it's hard. So I want to say, how do I make it easier for people? Because when it comes to lending, you can, even if you go back to Jesus' time, it's always about trust. Yep. People lend you, the only reason the bank is going to give you the money because they trust you. You've given me your house. You're willing to put something on the line. I know you're going to pay me or I'll take your house. So you have some. So it's about trust. And advanced systems, when you look at advanced economies, they have credit, like mature credit reference bureaus where you can trust someone. So we were talking about a 50-year-old person here 55-year-old with 5 children, 2 have gone through school. I mean, by any standard, this person is successful. They're built, but they can't go in and just get a credit card for $10,000, which is something that the bank should have even given them before they even come to you. Go on the opposite side, advanced economy. Some 19-year-old, 18-year-old has a credit card of $5,000 and they only earn like $2,000. You get the point? Because the bank is, during their teenage years, maybe they're on their parents' credit, they use the card, then they've gotten a credit, they've gotten a smartphone, they've gotten 2 things, now they're in school. The financial systems are offering them the money because they know they can hold your account, they will collect it back. So I wanted to say, how can we focus on data? You can trust people based on what they do. And their data, their financial data is the only thing that because my entire background, even building software, has always been in fintech, understanding like money movement. That's always been even when I worked for Dish Network, for SAI Worldwide, all that was always in the fintech space. I wanted to say, how do I make it easier?
Yeah.
So that's how PesaChoice was born. I was like, okay, good. I'm going to start. I would love to fix it for all over 1 billion people we have in Africa. But let's start with people with verifiable income.
Yeah.
If I can know that Moses has X amount of money, he's paid this monthly, I can give him a fraction of his money. Then over time, we build trust.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if Yusuf is a good friend of mine, he lends me money. That's the thing that people always think, like in the back of your mind, even you before you lend it to me as a friend, you do your math. That's the thing. In your head, whether it's subconsciously or consciously, you're going to do it. A stranger can ask you for $2,000 at the gate there, and he or she says it's life and death. I promise I'll bring it to you tomorrow. You won't believe it. But I can say, Yusuf, I'm sorry, I forgot my wallet. Give me 10, and you give it to me. Why? Because you're like, I've known him for years. I think he has a good job. He was dressed well. So there's all those things like subconsciously that run through your head to say, you know what, he's good for it. Because all you want to decide is he going to give me back my money? That's all you want to decide is he going to? There's all that mental mathematics you're going to do, whether you know it or not, of you saying, he drives a nice car. He has a nice watch. He dresses nicely. I've known him for a while. I think he might. This is a small amount that he'll be able to return to me. Yeah. And if it's your boss, you'll be like, yeah, I know he's got the money. You don't even think about it, but all that is preconceived. So how can we use that? We create an algorithm, and AI will make life easier for you today, but you get to the AI part once you really have a lot of data. But can I create a profile about Yusuf if I look at Yusuf's just bank transactions? Yeah. Yeah. I can see that for the last 4 years, he's been banking with the bank X. Annually, he's getting total amount, this one, spending-wise. And then I'll be like, good, I can give him a loan. Yeah. And I offer him a service. And he might even use it to improve himself. So that's what I wanted to build. But the customer segment I picked is the ones who have verifiable income. Because I tried also to go again to several financial institutions, say, I would like to build this. Can we partner on it? I'll build the tech. I want your data. No luck. And then the entrepreneurship in me is when said, you know what? They can't give it to you, just build it. They said, okay, I'm going to build HR software. Yeah. I'm going to build, I wanted to build 2 things. I want to build employee management so I can understand a bit about you. I want to build payroll processing. That's it. If I can get all your data, about your biodata, and then I can understand how often you paid, how much are you paid, how long is your contract. Then I can allow you to do that.
Yeah.
That's those two things I wanted to do. But then we rolled them out in 2020. At that time, I was running alone. My two co-founders said, you know what? We've pivoted 3 times. This is insane. And they had just gotten married, and I couldn't understand them. They had just both gotten married. I was their best man. I was in there, and said, but then me, I was like, I have more risk than you guys. You just got married. Me, I have 2 children. So I was like, okay. I said, I'm gonna give you this one last ride. But then every time I would say one last and try. One last. Giving up is not really good.
Yeah, they always don't say that because something is gonna make it not be the last.
Not be the last, yeah.
And at this time, was it a tough? I mean, at this time you're now fully based in Rwanda because that's where you're seeing the problem.
Yeah, right? I seeing the problem.
Was this a tough sell to pivot for this 3rd time?
Yeah.
With your new investors now, but also with your family as well, and telling them, hey, let's go back to the country and make this happen.
So 2 things in our case. Well, one, if you're an entrepreneur, welcome to our world, which you've been in for a minute. You need to be lucky and find the right wife. That part you need to be like, because they have to be willing to put up with you. That's one thing. So selling it to my family, I think it was mostly you have to sell it to my mom had just passed, and it was a tough time trying to figure things out. That's why I say I've made a lot of stupid mistakes. Like if I think logically, if I was to advise anyone at that time, like if I was advising someone who said, you have a very good CV, just get a job. Get paid probably very handsomely. And I got a couple good offers even in Rwanda. I got a couple good job offers that were like during those times when you can see it will solve most of your financial problems. But luckily, I said, you know what, I'm going to go for this. Our investors, we only had Nis Capital and 1 angel investor. So we got an angel investor, and so we only had two angels basically on a cap table. And then the 3 of us. So my co-founders are saying, you know what, we will take advice. We will be here whenever you need us, but we cannot be full-time anymore. So you're doing this by yourself. You're saying, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I had a few people who I talked for advice. I went to them, had conversation. You cannot be an island. You have to talk to people. You need to find people who have done this or people who have not even done it, and just let talk to them and see where you are. So I said, okay, I'm going for this. The thing is, you don't also have a lot of time to think. That's a problem because you are either looking at like a couple options. This is November 2019. Now it's 2020, beginning of 2020. You're looking at a couple options. One, you need to continue working quickly so that you don't die. I had about 4 interns, I think. It's about 4 interns. Very young people, brilliant, happy. I don't want to let them down. I really don't want to tell them, you know what, I've quit this, which is also, again, there's nothing wrong with that. We're like, you know what, this has failed. You guys go ahead and look for other jobs. So, and I think there was time for me between coming up with the idea and executing. There was not a lot of time.
Yeah.
Saying, you know what, I'm just going for it. I'm going to give it a try. Went for it. Didn't think about the old company. Didn't say stop the company, start a new one. Didn't think of any of that. Just focused on the problem and how do I solve it? How do I put the best product out immediately? That's what I was thinking of. It. Put up a product as fast as you can. And I was lucky to have also a very young team that was hungry. Yeah. They were hungry for knowledge. And my sales pitch has always been to my team, telling them, look, I'm going to do my best to make you the best version of you. Because me as your boss and you as the intern, you're coming in, you're just straight out of college, you have a year, you have 2. I want you to live in the next 2-3 years when you're the best engineer that you can be. When I get some of these guys, a lot of them will go to BK Tech, House Rainbow, and these are the companies that are hiring them, paying them crazy money that I can't afford to pay them. And even back then it was harder, where you would train them, a few months later you lose them, and you're like, yeah, it's bitter and sweet. You're like, you know what, at least this kid, someone else saw his potential. Yeah. So you have to find a particular type of people who care about knowledge initially than money. And yes, of course, eventually money wins a lot of time. Yeah. So at this time, no, I basically wanted to build a product.
Yeah.
I talked to my wife. We spent time. That's the main person you have to talk to. And because they're the ones who are affected the most. And you have 2 little girls. So you just say, what do I do now? How do I get to it? Yeah. And COVID comes. Shapes up things. But for me, COVID was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Because it gave me time to build. That's the thing. You see, I'd just been it's November 2020, you're pivoting. Yeah. So it means 2020, you're starting to build a whole new product. You're no longer, you still have the old product, but you're not focused on it because you don't have the resources. You're focused on building employee management, payroll processing. You have no idea about HR. You're just reading. You're trying to understand the labor laws in Rwanda. You're trying to understand the tax calculations. You have no idea. I didn't have any idea. Just me trying to figuring out with my small team, just a handful of us. Yeah. Just me and then very young people who, when I think of this wild thing, I just tell them, this is what we are doing. I'm like, I'm started. Okay, now continue. So you try to figure that out. Yeah. So COVID was a bit of a blessing in disguise. My wife was in the US. I was here with the kids. We were locked up in the house. So it meant you could work for 20 hours. You just sleep 4. because you sleep, you wake up, you work, you sleep, you wake up, you work. You continue, you're actually napping, not sleeping, because you're napping in between. Yeah. And then April 20th, we got our very first client to process payroll for us. And this client was happy to some degree because I tried different platforms that didn't work well for him for the local market. And she said, can you build for me leave management? Now I want to know absence. Now you go back to the drawing board. You're like, if you pay me, I will. Because again, this is where you I think you've gone through this with Bug. You always, as a tech company, if you don't die multiple times, almost die, and then you somehow resurrect, and sometimes have to do something to make sure that you breathe for another month. So remember, the goal is to build payroll employee, do your lending.
Yeah.
Someone says, okay, give me this one. You're like,
sure.
How much are you paying me for it? Like, okay, good. I can pay my 5 interns for a few months. Me, I don't have to get paid. Or maybe I also get a little bit for my bills. Mm-hmm. You just look at that. That's what she did. Yeah, you do. So fast forward, it was a year and a half later in 2021.
Yeah.
We had a full-blown HR platform.
Yeah. What was the biggest, let's say, breakthrough, out of all of that back and forth, changing the product, building the team and COVID and everything? When would you say, you felt a breakthrough and say, okay, yes, guys, we're onto something here?
Oh, when actually the breakthrough was the first client. When the first person ran payroll and someone, you see, when you're building a company, I think, I don't remember if I told you this. I think about it like 4 stages for us, right? You come up with the idea, you think it's good. Then you need to build probably an MVP to say actually, because you have assumption, do your research, you do everything, you build something. And then once you build it, you want someone to use it. Either you sell it or use it for free. The breakthrough for me is always that usage part is actually someone willing to use it. That's number 1. 2, they're willing to pay for it. That's even better. That's even better. Yeah.
In the account.
That's better. Yeah. You know that one past 1,000, it's not much, I can tell you. Yeah. But it feels good. It feels good. You're like, that first paycheck, that first check that the client gives you, it's like 10 million. I'm telling you cannot equate it to something else. We're like, they are willing to pay their own money to use my thing. And now you can't sleep. Because when they go and like, again, you bend over backward to make sure that this client is happy. They'll call you at 2, even if they call you at 2 a.m., you'll be like, yes, I'm here. They shoot an email, they see you respond at 5, you're like, oh yeah. So I know what problem you're facing. Give me a few hours, I'll have it resolved. Yeah. So you have that attention. So
you want a customer support 24/7.
Your customer support, I had one of the interns was doing customer support with me, and we're doing business as well. And you're everything, you're every part of the company. Yeah, you just there trying. And then, so our breakthrough when the first client paid and they actually said, I want another feature. It's like, I'm on something. I think, even though I haven't reached where I want to be, because where I want to be was to do the lending.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm on to something. And that 2020, from April 2020, because our first payroll was processed 2020, April 20th, to summer of 2021, I was like, good. We have two other problems. So you find a solution, but you find there's another problem. And you cannot build for everything.
Yeah.
And so we had payroll, performance management, employee management, asset management. So we had all the full-blown HR platform like Bamboo and all the others that you see out there that are worth billions of dollars. So now we had a full HR platform. But on that breakthrough, as we grew, we realized that we still had challenges in Africa for HR. Because it's a department that only is kind of reserved for companies that are established. SMEs, small companies, it's completely overlooked. And people are the most important thing in any organization. Without people, you're nothing. You can't get anything out there. You can't maintain it out there. And people are super important. And so that's the thing that we said, now, how do we make sure this is a tailored market software for Rwanda? Then we added Uganda, Kenya, Ghana. We said, let's add a few more. Long term, we want to make sure we add all the markets. But so that's what we said, okay. I knew a problem that I wanted to fix. In route, I found a few other challenges. The first challenge I found was that one of saying, there's no affordable HR software. Banks and telcos and any companies or these companies with 50 employees and above, or these NGOs, everyone, these guys are paying $5-6 per employee to European software companies. Yeah. Locally, you're not going to tell PesaChoice to start paying $200 a month. $200 is another good intern. Is that another good intern? Or $200 is another good intern. And I can also take my team out to build team morale. There's a few things that I'm like, you know what, I'll still use Excel. Excel.
Like, I'm okay with that as well.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll do it. Yeah.
That's very interesting. I'm curious to hear from you. What have you seen is the reality of building an enterprise software product on the continent, right? Because I'm assuming this is what you guys are building.
Yes.
And it's quite similar to the product that we're trying to build with Bag as well. And it's tough, man. It's really tough building an enterprise product.
Yeah.
You go to these companies, they don't have any processes. And most of the time they're like, we're okay with what we have. Like, I don't think we need some fancy tech to come and solve this problem, right? And also you have all these challenges of client wanting you to become a consultant, right? Where they want you to start building on top of that feature, customize it for them. Oh, we don't want it to be public, we want it to be private and all these things. And you end up realizing that it only makes sense if you're paying me $100,000, which is what all these big companies, that's what they charge. So what are some of the realities that you've experienced, let's say?
So, the thing that I've seen in our market, one is the people who can afford it, they still think different. That's a problem. That's the number one problem. And the ones who are not using enterprise softwares don't understand the value of automating certain functions in your company. I think this is a big company solution, not us. If you think about enterprise software, a lot of so that's why it becomes harder to sell, because in your sales process, as you're selling the software, it also has to come with customer education. You don't just tell them, look, I'm not coming as Bag or as PesaChoice to give you a solution. I'm telling you how this solution benefits you. Because the first thing is like, but we've been using Excel, we've been using pen and paper. It works. I'm not saying your system doesn't work. I'm just saying you can be more efficient. And in that efficiency, in future, whether it's now or further down the road, it's going to translate into a lot of success. That's why, and so that's the first thing. So there's building the software. There's also the customer mindset. I put those into two different buckets. So building the software, as soon as you build the software, you always need the first 2, 3, 10 customers. Those are ones who are going to shape it for you. And as soon as you get most of them, when most of our customers don't want to be the first. If you come to them, the ones who can afford it again they want an established software. Or if they accept to do it, they do what you just mentioned. They tell you, we want it this way. I'm like, yes, I see how you want it. But based on my research and what I have in my mind and what I've seen, for this solution to be working for you, I need to incorporate all these X, Y, and Z. So it becomes harder. So that's why. So it's a really challenging solution. So that's when they're building, because you build, you give customers, and they keep telling you, this is how we do it, this is how we do it, and this is how we do it, and this is how we want it. And after you talk to 10, 15, 20 customers, you find that if you're going to really build a proper enterprise software to fit their need, it will have to be 10 different configurations. And that will make it more complicated. Now you need to look at all these things and say, how do I group it to make it usable for them and explain it to them? So that's the number one thing that I see. That's on the customer of saying, I want to build a solution. I'm going to explain to you how the solution works. And there's certain things that you were doing that are there, and there's certain things that I've added that basically there's certain things you were doing that are no longer relevant because of this new way of doing things. Yeah. And this makes you more efficient as an organization. And then there's also now the customer side of it, the bucket. Here now you're telling them the technology. Now on the bucket of the customer, now you're explaining to them. How many employees do you have? 50. How do you pay them? I do this one. When someone wants to take leave, how do they do leave? Or they write a form, they do this one. Now you explain to them, okay, you see, all these things, you have 3 HR people because you need every one of them. That's number one. You have someone for recruitment. You have someone who is processing payroll, or you're outsourcing it or processing payroll. So you start educating them that here's how the solution helps you. It automates some of these things. And then here's something else we've faced for us, where some people think that the solution is coming to replace them. Because
yes.
You're like, no. Again, technology has to be used by people. Yeah. It's not going to replace the HR department. It's not. In your case, it's the same thing. You guys are showing them a solution in your edtech platform. You're like, I'm making you guys better. I am not coming in to replace you. I'm just trying to come in and see where things are not going well. And I'm showing you that as an owner of a small business, you need to make sure you have a high-performing team. That's your number one job. And
save a lot of time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, my job and your job is the same. We have 3 jobs: customers, team, people, investors. We have to make sure all these 3 buckets are fulfilled for our business to be a success. Investors have to be happy that you're growing as an organization, for them to invite to add more money or even ask do things. Customers want to make sure that the platform is working. For it to work, the team has to be happy and working. So, and all these things. So that's our job, to sell, but you have to go to these people and explain to them how this helps them.
But then a client comes to you and says, yeah, I'm using Bamboo. Yeah. It's based in the US, maybe slightly a little bit more expensive than you guys, but it gives me this wide range of 24 different features that maybe I'm only using 10, but I'm going to use the other 14 later. Yeah. So so then they're like, yeah, I'm using this one. It's working at the moment. How do you approach those kind of clients?
Yeah.
Because with those kind of clients, there's one good thing about them. They're already using a similar platform. So they do not need as much education. It's now more about how do you get them to transition from that product to this one?
Yeah. So many of them that we've seen they'll be using 3 different platforms, because Bamboo handle for them performance and employee management and not recruitment. But then they have to use Excel for payroll processing. And then they have to, so that's number one. So first, of course, you have to approach them from the cost angle, because that always makes sense for everyone. $6 a user with Bamboo to $10 based on the features you've chosen, versus $3 a user. And you get all the features in single. Then second, we had to explain to them support. Our support locally, you can't compare it to Bamboo support. Then the email support, you you can pay for extra support. It costs you a lot more money. That's the thing. So we basically focus on us trying to show them like, we are local. We have a local solution that's fully customized for this market, which means the payroll and the labor laws are fully set for this market. Our support staff is available to you. It's within with a phone call away and just a few minutes away. And then the cost, of course, we are 70% cheaper. So that's what we explain to them. And then, but it takes a process. Because you explain to them, you do demos, and some of them will give you a try. We've gotten a few who have even moved from the big HR platforms and said, you know what, we used your platform, we like it. But also the other thing is, particularly in the early years, is the ones who is willing to put up with bugs. Because they can call you and like, the early adopters. Those early adopters, you really need them. You need someone who is patient enough to be like, when they call you like, oh no, we are going to file our taxes, but there's something wrong with our tax report. You're like, good, let me check. Oh, we pushed a new change 2 weeks ago, and somehow it affected everything. Let's do, give me a few minutes, some time to. So that's the thing. So most of them is also trying to convince them that I'm willing to give it even for free for 2-3 months because I want you to try it out. I truly believe once you use our platform, the user experience versus the big players is going to be almost at par, if not better, and your cost is going to be much lower. Yeah. Then we tried that. But that's the thing.
Incredible, man.
Yeah.
From your experience building your first company in the US to trying to fundraise in the US and then coming on the continent, and I know you've been able to fundraise for your company, keeping the company, afloat and growing as well to where you are today. What has been your fundraising journey, and how painful or joyful has it been?
So fundraising, I may find it to be like speed dating. So, because you have to talk to 10 different people. And I don't know if you've read this, but in Africa, it takes an African company about 24 months to close a fundraising round. We've been lucky that we did it faster, right? But that's on average. And this is a study that is published. Now, the one thing that that's hard for us is, first of all, for a tech startup to survive 3 months, it's hard because you're going to run out of money. The biggest constraint you're going to have is money. You have to keep your team, you have to keep your lights going, servers, everything that needs money. And you're going to run out of money no matter what. So that's number one. 24 months is not a luxury that we can afford. It's not. So our fundraising journey, for me, what I've seen in this one, but it has improved, I would say, over the last 2-3 years, it has really improved tremendous, is also investors are looking for certain things. Because an investor also, you also have to understand it from their angle. I'm putting my money on this company and this guy might run away with it. You don't have a very good track record. Because initially, your entire investment is always going to be, as an investor, I'm going to look at Yusuf. I talk to Yusuf. I'll be like, if you raise $2 million, all those investors who are giving you that $2 million have essentially believed in Yusuf. He will pull it off. That's it. That's the initial thing. Because the business, they have to make sure that the business is good business, but you are insane enough to work your behind off and deliver. That's why, because they want their money to multiply over the next few years. So when we try to raise capital in the US, first, wrong profile. So as much as investors are looking at you, you also need to look at them. Because if you put the wrong investor on your cap table, it's also going to be very bad for you. It's going to make your life really hard. Okay? Because they're going to give money and the money is going to come with conditions and they're going to, and that sometimes those conditions don't align with your vision. Now you have to execute their vision, which is different. So that's number one. So what we did is you need to profile your investors. You need to look at them. You need to look at their portfolio companies. Who have they invested in? What have they done? What do they like to do? Yeah. You look at that, right? That's number one. Number two, you need to look at, you need to look at like your vision of the company. How do they come in? What do they bring to the table beyond the cash injection? Yeah. A cash injection is your priority, is what you need, but you also want them to open doors for you because you're going to need a lot more money. You're going to need a lot more advice. Can they open? Do they have someone in their portfolio, someone in there within their own networks that they can put you in touch with when you need the help? And some of this can be just advice. One of our investors is Snowskin. They've been a big help for us. When we told them we were having these problems, they just put us with other actually very successful entrepreneurs who have gone through similar problems. And they explained to you like, so there was such a biggest problem like my cap table. Why? Because I've pivoted 3 times, I carried over people every year. So you explain it to them and they're like, oh, yeah, I've been where you are. And after now, of course, their company is worth maybe $500 million or $1 billion, and they explain to you what they've done. And sometimes you can, again, as an entrepreneur, you listen to people, you process that information, and you make the best decision you can make. So our fundraising journey, 2021, we got like when we got into the accelerator for No Skin, which was very good for us. And then they did a follow-on investment, and that opened our fundraising. But the follow-on investment came in after we got I've been lucky most of my life. I have. Because our very first angel investor in this venture, someone just told me the money and I thought he was kidding. He actually said, I'm going to give you the money. And I thought, this guy's not serious. Because we had a conversation. I told him what he was more interested in me. He wanted to know, what have you done? Tell me about your life. Tell me, he was, so we had a very good lunch, and I spoke more than he spoke because he asked questions and I had to respond to the questions. And he wanted to know, like, your childhood, how did you grow up, like what led you to who you are today. And then later, once I asked him, I think last year, 2022 is when I asked him, and he said, no, I want to invest in people. I don't invest in companies, I just invest in people. I like you. You might make it, you might not make it, but I just invest in people. Yeah, because I know if you and the man, he has good money because he was able to. I have one of our very first interns. He's called Luke, and he now did our engineering team work together. He was born in DRC. I was born in Uganda. We're both Rwandans. We came here and grew up here. I told him the money, and because we were staying together. I told him, the guy said he'll give us money. He's like, don't give us, not us, no. I was like, so you spoke with him, and he said to give you 100,000. I'm like, yeah. And no, I'm like, no, I didn't ask for the money. He offered. He said, I will invest. I'm like, okay, this is fascinating. So, he didn't believe me. He said, no, look, this is not going to happen now. I told him, let's do an exercise. How much money do we actually need? And if we got it, what do we do? What do we do with that money? And we went on our drawing board and just talking in the hotel room. We're in Sweden. So by the time we did our demo day, where you're pitching to a few hundred investors, we had already gotten 2 investors. So, which was very attractive. So if you can, that would be good, because investors also like to go in when they know someone else is there. So when you open and be like, okay, we're Bag Innovation, we're raising $500,000, we already have 2 people have committed $100K each. Then now the investors want to know who are those people? Yeah. Can we actually talk to them? Are you willing to put us in touch with that person? And then they find out. So
back to the dating.
Now back to the speed dating. Yeah, the speed dating. Same thing is, you youngins, you hang in there, you'll be there, then somehow all of a sudden you have a girlfriend, and then somehow other girls are interested in you. I don't know why. Maybe they were interested before, but why do they have to wait for you to find someone for them to say, you know what? Yeah. So you're now dating. Oh, you didn't tell me you were actually looking for a serious relationship. I think I was. You just did. So something with investors. As soon as you get the first one or second one, then it makes it easier for the other ones because they want to know. Yeah. That's why they want to know. Oh, so who is in already? Tell us a bit about them. How much have they committed to? So they start looking at that. And And the hardest part, I guess, that we need to figure out is we need those early believers.
Yeah.
We need the early adopters. So what we need in our market in Rwanda and in Africa is one, whether it's government or private investors, private companies, one, you need to be open-minded to understand that we are capable of building a solution that can actually work. Give us a try. I'm not saying we want to screw it up or even fail miserably. I'm just saying when we come to you, give us a fair shake, because that's how the ones you're using, that's how they started. Whether you're Oracle is probably the biggest database on the planet. They are one of the biggest enterprise solutions in the world. Let's get started by using government of US as a guinea pig.
Yeah.
So give us opportunity. That's just on the early adopters. Even investors, we need to start looking at how do we survive that first 1 to 2 years as entrepreneurs. Can we get these local VCs? We've been doing very well in Rwanda to start, but how do we do this across the continent where you have Hunger Pitch, where there's these grants that are coming in? You have, I think, a few incubators now that are willing to give that 5,000 to start, that 10,000 to start. How do we get that? And then if we can get a few successful people that are going to make it, and then create maybe a small early stage angel networks that invest that first 50K to 100, 200K. Because once you get to raising to $1 to $2 million, then you're attractive to other VCs.
Yeah.
But how do we make it easier for these tech entrepreneurs and these startups to survive long enough to attract bigger checks?
Yeah.
That's why I think that we need a few more VCs to help there.
Yeah.
It has improved. Yes, I'm happy with it, but how do we even make it faster?
Yeah. What's your take on bootstrapping?
Bootstrapping is good if you can. But bootstrap, because first at PesaChoice we did bootstrap for the most part initially. That's how, if you look at PesaChoice now, 2024, we are almost 7 years old, right? So if you're looking at 7 years old, and we did get to early angel investors before 2019, but our very first investment was 2022. 2022 is when we closed our fundraising round. We started it during Northkin, so you had to figure out how to survive. But it's also, bootstrapping is tough for us as Africans because we don't have the money. That's the thing. How do you bootstrap when you still need to find a way of spending $1,000 a month by your server fees, your first 2 hires, your office space, or your garage? Americans talk about garages, but we don't have a garage. When you talk about Steve Jobs' story, the man started in the garage. The parents had one. We don't have a garage. When you talk, so yes, these are brilliant entrepreneurs who had a very humble beginning, starting from the garage, whether it's Microsoft, Google, Facebook on campus. They had those things to start, but we don't. So we have to stay. So for us, we used to meet a lot of young entrepreneurs at Caleb. Those are the places you start. Is like this you have to find a way. How do we make it communal? The people with brilliant minds, hungry, wanting to change the world, hoping to make the difference, can meet.
Yeah.
Because the garage is not there.
You're right.
An uncle who can give you that initial 5,000. We're not even talking about 100K. Because whether you look at the Jeff Bezos or even Elon Musk, they had these good opportunities. And again, we are not saying we need similar opportunities that they do. No, I think that would be very unfair because we are in different worlds. But that initial, because even if you bootstrap, I don't read a lot of books. Actually, I read a lot of biographies. When you read a lot of these biographies, there's always that one person who believes in you and gives you, if you're in the US, it's 50,000 to 100. But for us, we are looking at some of these entrepreneurs looking at 10,000. How do we? So bootstrapping, if it was possible, would be good. It works well for a lot of basically, if you look at businesses that are in products, that would work well. Products like physical products, FMCGs, and other things, because you can turn a profit, or you can use your revenues to re-inject, right?
Yeah.
But platforms like ours, your first 2 years, you can't get even if you talk about your first 6 months, how do you bootstrap it? You're right out of high school in Rwanda. How many parents can even afford to give you 5 million francs?
But also at the same time, you don't even know, it takes a lot of iteration of the product for you to reach the product market fit, right? There's a lot of competition. You have to, you basically need runway to convince customers to stop, buying. Yeah. Do you think entrepreneurship is for everyone?
No, I don't think it's for everyone.
Why is that?
Because and when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's about the pain levels that you can take. Not everyone is built for it. Yes, some people forced it. Because if you talk about entrepreneurship as a whole, not just focusing on successful technology entrepreneurship, there's a lot of people who do it, who are forced into it. And a lady who is selling tomatoes and onions and carrots in the market, that's an entrepreneur. She wakes up in the morning, she goes and purchases merchandise, and most of them are forced into it because it's not that they have a choice. And they know I have to put food on the table, so I need to go and wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning, go buy these things, sit in the market all day, sell them, hopefully finish them off, sell them off all by the end of the day, and then start again tomorrow. So if you're going to break it down to that level, that's what entrepreneurship is. And for everyone, there's people who go into it thinking it's glamorous because, again, they've read the story of Zuckerberg. And you can
they've seen Davis in Sweden.
No, that's the thing.
All these billionaires.
Yeah. So what do you do? I think entrepreneurship is if you truly believe you want to solve a problem, particularly if you're looking like tech entrepreneurship is, you need to understand that your number one drive is not money. Money is good. Never leave money on the table. I'll never need to leave money on the table. And if you do whatever you're doing very well, it should translate into money. It's just believing that what I am building or what I'm working on is going to help people. Because the reason I say that's what the mindset has to be is for the 3, 5, even 10 years of your business, you most likely will not have money. And what has to wake you up in the morning is believing that I'm building something for the future, not building it for now. And that's why, so it's based on how you look at it. But for me, my personal opinion is entrepreneurship is not for everyone. No. You should go into it when you know that you most likely will fail, but then you still do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I definitely agree with you on that note because there's a new article that just came out saying that Rwanda has the most number of entrepreneurs.
Yes.
I mean, one of the biggest number in Africa. And I mean, to me, I don't know what you think about that, but to me, I have an opinion about it where I'm like, yeah, I mean, it just means a bunch of people just have founder on their LinkedIn. Yeah. But, are we really building companies for the right reasons, right? Did we really identify a problem, or do we just want to also be on camera? Do we also want to be on podcasts? Do we also want to be on stages?
Yeah.
Or do we really care about these problems, right? Yeah. Because in the beginning of our conversation, as you mentioned as well, if you look back at it, you would have taken different decisions, right? Which is maybe stay in the job a little bit longer, make some money, save the money, and then invest the money into the business. And I kind of feel like because entrepreneurship is becoming this glamorous career to have, a lot of people want to go into it because of that, and not necessarily because they genuinely really want to fix some of the key problems. What do you think about that article, though? That says Rwanda has the most number of entrepreneurs.
I think Uganda also had a similar article, I think even Kenya, somewhere there. Yeah. But I would say, let's again look at it from the African lens, right? In the African lens, there's again the ones who are forced into entrepreneurship. So you're not really calling it entrepreneurship, it's a survival. I wake up in the morning, I realize I can't get a job, I need to get a motor, start my own business. So I'm essentially my own boss. I ride a motor, I do something. That's entrepreneurship because you are building. Now, if we're talking about tech, we're talking about tech entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs, people who are saying, you know what, this problem is not just for Rwanda. This is an African problem. This is a global problem. I should do something about it. I'm going to build a solution. I'm going to build a technology. I don't know if I will ever solve the problem. Again, always start with what you think you can do and let it, hopefully other people pick it up and make it bigger. So when you look at our African continent, we are not entrepreneurship. Majority of the entrepreneurs, you have the ones who do it as a need for survival. You can't get a job, your family, those are the biggest. Now let's focus on the ones that we are talking about, the ones whose parents are going to raise you, go put you in school and everything, and then you start saying, you know what, everyone is doing it, why can't I? No, not everyone is doing it. Some people are doing it. Exactly. Now the question is, can you do what they do? Because for you to be what they are, you need to be willing to do what they do.
Yeah. You
want to wake up in the morning and you want to become Elon Musk? Good luck. Yes, you can. But the question is, are you willing to sleep on the floor, work 110, 20 hours a week, do this for a few years, sell a company for $200 million? Sorry, get 100. I think you got 180 million from PayPal, because there are two different companies from PayPal. Once he gets $180 million, don't quit. Start a whole new other company. Spend all the $180 million because he spent it in Tesla, in SpaceX, and I think a little bit in Solar City. Yeah. No, now he is insane. I don't think I think Elon Musk personally, he's crazy because very few people are gonna get. You mean wake up in the morning, Yusuf, and you have $180 million in your account. Fast forward a few years later, 3-4 years later, you realize I'm left with 40 million. Out of the 180, and I'm like, I'm going to reinject it in the companies. The man, if they had failed, he was completely broke, like no way around.
Back to square one.
But I think that is negative because that's like, the reason it becomes negative is there's a lifestyle. There's certain things you've maintained your family on. You had children and ex-wives, and so you start negative because they still expect to have certain things. So that's the part that you have to do is understanding that if I want to become an entrepreneur, I have to be willing to do what those people are doing. And you cannot go chilling at the club every evening. No, you can't. You can't be hanging with your friends. No, you can't, because in a week you have 7 days a week, 24 hours. And that gives you at around 168 hours in a week. Yeah. That's how many hours you have.
And technically you are broke.
Yeah.
Technically you are broke for many years.
You will be broke. You're always broke as an entrepreneur.
Your friends are going to have nice jobs, get a loan, buy a nice car, and for you, you're still like, oh, I'm still building a new feature and tomorrow.
You're building because your friends have a paycheck. You don't have a paycheck. You don't. Whatever money you get, you spend less on you. You need to figure out how to spend more on building. And that is the team. And so, have you ever heard of the Chinese bamboo tree?
Chinese bamboo tree?
Yes.
I know we make paper from bamboo.
So let me tell you a bit about Chinese bamboo tree. That's what really, maybe to help people understand what entrepreneurship is Chinese bamboo tree. A Chinese bamboo tree, you plant the seed. For 5 years, you have to continue watering it, weeding around where you planted your seed. Because if you don't, otherwise it's going to die. It's not going to have enough wood. But the problem is, for 5 years, it actually doesn't grow. You can't see it out. You don't see it sprout out. Oh. You see, that's the thing. You don't see it come out. Now, after 5 years, I think it's like, I can't remember, so don't quote me on this exactly, but I think you can Google it and see it. It grows like 90 feet high. So it just comes out and just becomes big. So
for 5 years, you've forgotten about the thing.
No, that's why for it to actually do that, for it to actually come out, you have to constantly water it. You know where you planted it. So let's use, like, I think there's a guy who used this very well. He's a motivational speaker. He used it. I can't use his. I will try to paraphrase what he said. Because I'm not good at telling other people's stories, I'll just paraphrase. He said, just imagine Yusuf is planting here. His neighbors see Yusuf every day. He's watering something. He comes next day, he's weeding. And then next day, the after, they say a year later, like, there's this little area that used to for maybe, they're like, this guy is insane. Because they're like, what is he doing? You put water, you weed, you do these things, you put manure, you whatever. But then again, 5 years later, they see that. So that's what most people see. They see the tree. They don't know what went in to get the tree. You're looking at Elon Musk is now the richest man. Him and Jeff Bezos are between the two each other, the richest man. But this guy in the 90s, the two of them, what we are seeing in the last, what these young people and everyone else we see and get excited about is what they have achieved today. They had the 90s, they had the 2000s, they had the 2010s. You're looking at 3-4 decades of work. And that's why the guy is what he is now. What put in, yeah. So that's the thing that we have to understand. So it's not, we are building entrepreneurs and we need to build more. I personally, my personal belief is Rwanda as a country, we need a unicorn badly. And in my opinion, why we need the unicorn is not to get the unicorn for the sake of money, no. Just to let for people to believe. Because there's a lot of entrepreneurs, young ones who are not even out there yet, and they need some good success stories. So if Bug Innovation can become a unicorn, one, it will do two things immediately. There's the next generation of saying, you know what, so for the dude, some guy will be like, yeah, no, that guy, he used to walk. I saw him catching a motor. That's the point is then they start believing they can be you. Yeah. They can be better. They don't even need to be you. They need to think that they can do better. That's number one. And two, investors are similar. Even then when they start seeing unicorn, they start looking at those markets and be like, there's something there. And this just not only translate in the tech world. Similar, like, I mean, when you look at you wake up every morning, if you had a soccer player, I'm a big soccer fan, I play soccer and I watch it. If you look at a soccer player, you find when every kid wants to be Mbappe. If Mbappe was from Nyamirambo, I promise you, in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to get 10 Mbappes or even better because every kid is like, no. The guy at the bar is going to tell you how he used to cut his hair. Someone is going to the barber shop, is going to tell you cut his hair. The guy ever say, I know his mother. And so that vicious cycle is what we need. It's just that because I know our government is doing its job. They're doing the best part to say, how do we encourage entrepreneurship? How do we get more of this? Yeah. But a few good success stories will do a lot more. I think Nicholas from Norskin, the founder of Klarna, he also put it best. He said, in 2006, when for them they were starting, their vision for Klarna was to build a $10 million company. In the same year when they had just started, Skype was sold to Microsoft for $1 billion. And it's a Swedish company. Their goal changed. We're like, now that's where I want to be. We no longer 10 million, no, we need $1 billion. Yeah. Of course, now they're worth Klarna is worth a few $1 billion now. I mean, that's what it is how do we make sure? Sometimes it will be bad. Some kids are going to be like, you know what? Bill Gates didn't finish college. No, yes, it is true, but that's not a good example. Like,
it's not a good example.
The average, let's go by the law of averages. The average person needs to, again, focus and get. You can also do entrepreneurship after. And our African parents, they graced us telling us, you need to be a doctor, you need to be a lawyer. That's what they raised you to become. So, and they made sense and it works.
Yeah. Davis, how would your team describe you in 3 words?
That's hard. I don't know how to answer this. I would say, let me break it into 2 teams because there's a team I have today and there's a team that I had when I pivoted about in 2020, so January 20. So the team I had in 2020, I think those ones would describe me as probably like a dreamer. I think that would be the only word, would be like a dreamer. That would be because I sat with these kids quite often and I was building the team from scratch with me and I was selling them the dream that we can actually do something. So that ones would probably do that as a dreamer. The current one team probably more of a workaholic. So I think when the people I was speaking, one would be like, yeah, he's probably every time they'll find me in the office, then I'm working. I'm in the office very early in the morning. I'm a morning person. I prefer that. They'll find me there.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, when we used to be,
when we're neighbors,
like 5 a.m, I would see you like
So and I will leave 6, 7 p.m. or sometimes go up to 9, and sometimes at night I'll be responding to things. So they'll be like, when is he not working? So I think, one of the things that I personally like within teams and I've been lucky to have that in my own teams, is to tell the team that I work with that we are all the same. As much as I'm the founder and owner of the company, I'm an employee like you. I have a role to play, and your role is as important as mine. So I do my best to communicate that to them on a regular basis, saying like, we all are here to do certain things. We will be able, and if we grow, we should grow together. Next month, whether you have a team of 3 people, a team of 20, and a team of 1,000, everyone, because no founder or no entrepreneur will hire a redundant role. They bring you because they believe they need you. Exactly. Yeah. So at Bag Innovation, you guys, because you know how tight your money be. Yeah. You're like, nah. How much is it going to cost?
Yeah.
You're like, no, I can't hold. Maybe let's ask these 2 other people to help us in this role. So that part is just trying, like, how do I make sure that everyone I work with understand that their role is important as my role, and there's no one in the organization that has a more important role than the other.
Yeah.
Well, they might have different titles, but you are there to do some things. Because if you're not there to do it, I promise you, there's no entrepreneur, there's no CEO that is going to keep paying you, whether they like you or not. They will let you go. Exactly. They'll let you go. Yeah.
There's going to be someone who's listening to our conversation or watching us and saying, maybe I relate a lot to Davis' story, right? Maybe we have some kind of shared experiences that I can see myself in there. But I also remember that before this, earlier, we were talking a little bit about personal finance when it comes to even young professionals, right? So I want you to hit 2 birds with 1 stone with this one, which is, what's your advice for young people who are trying to build themselves up, right? Either career-wise or become entrepreneurs as well. Like, what would you tell them with your vast experience?
Okay, so one is planning. Look, I think a lot of people, we fail to plan, but always plan. It doesn't mean that the plans have to work. It means that you just had a plan, right? That's number 1, is they need to plan. Where do I want to go? What do I want to be? Because your 20s are very good years. But you're going to age. You're going to turn 30, you're going to turn 40, you're going to turn 50, you're going to turn 60, you're going to turn 70, you're going to turn 80. Some people even reach 100 and up. So you need to plan. Because ultimately, whatever plans you make, whether it's, if I say, you know what, I'm an engineer, let's pick an employee. You're employed. What version of you do you want to be further down the road? Because you all are going to start at the same place, but you're not all going to end at the same place. 2 years later, one of the guys you thought was slower is probably your manager. That's number 1. So you need to plan your career. You need to plan where you want to be. And you're going to work hard to get there. You might fail, you might even never reach. The key thing is at least have a plan and try to work on that. Now, within the planning, that's where the finances always matter. Yeah, because within your planning, you should plan on what you want to be. And the finances, your personal finances are very important. You need to make, because you're going to work, you're going to get paid. If you get paid, you need to put some money away for a rainy day. Because you never know when that happens. You need to put some money away for future investments. Because you also don't want to become a problem further down the road. You want to become 60, 70 and you fall sick and then you're asking people. You don't want to be burdened. So how do you plan? How do you say, I had a friend when we started working, he had a rule. He was extreme. He had a rule that his paycheck would divide it into 4 pieces. And 1 piece is his personal expenses, and rent has to be in 25% of his paycheck. It's tough to do. I've never done it. I wish I could. I never did it when I was a kid. Yes, that's something you probably can do when you're in your 40s, when you have a lot more money.
Yeah.
You can do. But early enough, you can, if you're in Rwanda, probably making what, $500, less than 1,000. And where are you going to live and eat and go with your friends and still save 75%? Because for him, he would say 25% on my expenses, 50% investments, 25% savings. That was his goal. But then he lived low. We were both working. The man, I can say he had money. He had money. We were paid the same amount of money, but his lifestyle was where I could not do it. So that's the thing is, you need to save for the future.
Yeah.
There's peer pressure. You guys are in a wrong world with social media where everything looks glamorous. Someone is showing you how the weekend was fantastic. You also wish to have the same weekend. Yes, you should. Now, one thing that's important for me to tell the young people who are growing up, at least today in their careers, is also don't skip your age. Yes, plan, save. However, also try to live within your means, because you won't be 20 again, you won't be 30 again, you won't be 40 again. No, you can't. You can't really become 50 and you're like, you know what, I'm going to start going out and go home at 6 a.m. No, you can do that. Because
I don't think your body would allow you to.
You can try, but you'll be in pain in the next day. You'll be in pain in the next day. You have a headache. You'll probably be out of commission for 48 hours. And some people are going to be angry at you. Your daughter, your child, your son, your wife. So probably,
there's a lot more.
There's a lot more. So you need to be, So the planning part is, particularly when you're in your early 20s, focus on knowledge. Amass as much experience as you can, because that's what pays you at the end of the day. No one is going to pay you at 35 when you have 10 years of experience because of what you can do. They pay of because they're basically going to look at what you've done and say, how do you come and do the same with me? They don't want, if you're in your 20s, you've just started college, you have 2-3 years of experience, 4 years. I'm just saying you have potential. You've already demonstrated that potential. I want to see how you can do that with my company. That's what you're looking for. So plan, learn, and the planning has to be every 2-3 years you should go up in terms of knowledge. Read as many books as you can. Find the right mentors who find the right people to follow. Today's mentors doesn't mean that you have to come and talk to Yusuf. Follow Yusuf's podcasts. Here's the point. Read books about some of these people who have done things that you like and want to be. You want to be one of the best in a certain field. There's people who have done it. And a lot of them, now there's a lot of knowledge out there. Read it, do it. Go to your job and practice it and get better. And once you have so much experience, you have a lot of money. Because if you look at an average Rwandan, so again, we have to be realistic with what we do. I wish that every Rwandan would have a few $1,000s in the bank account when they are 20s, but that's not real. We don't have rich parents. The average one, you don't have a rich parent. Even your parent is scrapping around trying to make sure they put you through school. Your first job is going to pay you what, $100, $200, $300? Right out of college, you need to find a way to live. Your family is in Muhanga. Your job is in Kigali. You need to so you're looking at. So at that time, what you're doing is you're building your resume. You're building your experiences, so that at 40, you're now director of something. You're head, you're MD of something. At that time, yes, your paycheck is $5,000. And your bills are $2,000. That's when you can afford to do certain things. So that's the law of averages. When you go by where is the average Rwanda needs to be is go to school, work hard, learn. If you want to become an entrepreneur, do so, because that's what you really want to do. There's a lot of material out there to use. Understand that it may work, it may not work. But if it doesn't work, don't be discouraged. Start again and plan again. And build a whole new company. There's a lot of successful entrepreneurs who have built a company, crashed, and built a new one. And built a company up to $500 million, sold it, started a whole new company. And sometimes that company was going bankrupt because something else. And then restarting is not easy, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't. So the young people, entrepreneurs work. Let's focus on if I'm an employee, how do we become a better employee? These things of Nteziryayo, our usual thing, you want to do the bare minimum. No, that's not what's going to get you there. What's going to get you there, you have to go above and beyond. That's what's going to separate you from the guy and the guy next to you. You all start together, as I said, but 2, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years later, the guy who put in more work is going to, the rewards are going to be there. Yeah.
Davis, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your knowledge, man, and for the amazing work that you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And thank you also. You've done an amazing job with Bug Innovation in the podcast. Please keep it up. We need more. We need more of you, and hopefully we get a few thousand Yusufs out there ready to come and hit.
Absolutely, man.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.